On the planet Virelia, the sky was a swirl of green and violet, and the twin suns bathed the land in a gentle glow. Towering crystal spires rose from the ground, reflecting light like 1,000 mirrors. Virelians were tall and elegant, with smooth skin that shimmered slightly in sunlight, and eyes that glowed with colors that changed depending on their mood. Among them, Luma was known for her intelligence and grace. She worked closely with the alien queen Jara as a diplomat, often traveling to distant lands to settle disputes and forge alliances. Luma had lived her entire life within the palace, surrounded by luxury and order, but she had never imagined meeting a human. Humans were rare visitors to Virelia. They were small, fragile creatures from a distant blue planet called Earth, often described in history records as limited in strength and endurance. Luma had read about them, studied their customs, and even met a few envoys, but none had left a strong impression on her. One morning, the palace gates opened to reveal a new visitor. A human named Rian stepped onto the crystal walkway. He was taller than most humans Luma had seen, with broad shoulders and a calm expression. His hair was dark and his eyes held a quiet intelligence. He moved with purpose, yet there was no arrogance in his step. The queen observed him closely from her throne. Jara was not easily impressed. She had ruled Virelia for centuries and had seen countless diplomats, warriors, and scholars. Yet something about this human made her pause. There was a stillness in him, a hidden depth that seemed unusual for his kind. Jara spoke to Luma privately. "Luma, I have a suggestion. This human may seem ordinary, but I believe he carries potential beyond what we expect. I want you to form a connection with him. A diplomatic marriage will strengthen ties between humans and Virelians." Luma was startled. A marriage for diplomacy was not unusual in Virelia, but marrying a human was unheard of. She opened her mouth to protest, but the queen's eyes were firm. "It is your duty, Luma. Observe him. Learn his ways. Perhaps there is more to him than we know." That evening, Luma met Ryan in the palace gardens. The air was warm and the gardens were filled with flowers that glowed faintly in the twilight. Ryan bowed politely, his movements precise and respectful. "I am honored to meet you, Luma," he said, his voice calm but confident. "I have heard much about your wisdom and kindness." Luma studied him carefully. There was no pretense in his manner, no attempt to impress with grandeur or power. Instead, he seemed grounded, focused, and strangely serene. She felt a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps this human was not as simple as the records suggested. As days passed, Luma and Ryan spent more time together. He asked questions about Virelian culture, listened attentively to her answers, and offered ideas that were thoughtful and sometimes surprising. Unlike most Virelians, he did not seek to dominate or control. He observed first, spoke second, and always considered the consequences of his words. One afternoon, Luma took Rian to the cliffs that overlooked the twin moons. The winds were strong, but Ryan did not falter. He extended his hands and closed his eyes as if drawing energy from the air itself. Luma watched, fascinated, and asked, "What are you doing?" "I am feeling the wind," he replied simply. "I want to understand the world before I act in it." Luma had never seen anyone take such care in observing life. Most Virelians acted with speed and confidence, often believing their instincts were enough. But Ryan's patience and thoughtfulness intrigued her. She began to realize that there was a quiet strength in him that no one had mentioned. Back in the palace, the court began to notice the union between Luma and Ryan. Some whispered doubts about whether a human could truly match a Virelian. Others were curious, wondering what the queen saw in him. Even the palace guards, who had faced countless dangerous creatures, treated him with cautious respect. One day, a minor accident occurred in the palace. A group of workers accidentally triggered a small energy surge while handling crystal conduits. The surge caused sparks to fly dangerously close to the central hall. While most of the court panicked, Ryan stepped forward calmly. He guided the workers to safety, using a precise sequence of movements that neutralized the energy. Luma watched in amazement. Not only had he acted without fear, but his actions had prevented any harm. The queen herself appeared moments later. She raised an eyebrow at Ryan. "Impressive," she said. "Humans are said to be weak, but you have shown courage and skill. Tell me, do you often handle such dangers?" Ryan shook his head. "Not often, Your Majesty. But I believe danger is best met with clear thought and careful action, not panic." Jara studied him silently, her curiosity growing. She had seen humans before, but none had displayed such calm strength. Something about him suggested a hidden potential, a power waiting to emerge. As the days passed, Luma began to feel a connection with Rian that went beyond duty. She admired his patience, his intelligence, and his quiet courage. Unlike others who sought power or prestige, he sought understanding. When he looked at her, it was with respect and attention, not with desire for control. She felt a warmth in her heart that she had never felt before. One evening, Luma and Ryan walked through the palace corridors, discussing the history of Virelia. The crystal walls reflected the twin moons, casting soft light around them. "You seem different from what I expected," Luma admitted. "I thought humans were fragile and limited. You are more than I imagined." Ryan smiled gently. "I am still learning, Luma. But I believe that strength is not only in the body. It is in the mind, the heart, and the choices we make." Luma felt a surge of respect. Perhaps this human could teach her as much as she could teach him. She began to wonder if their union could be more than a political arrangement. Perhaps it could become a partnership of equals, built on understanding and trust. Meanwhile, Queen Jara observed from afar. She saw the way Luma looked at Ryan, the way the court began to notice his abilities, and she felt a mixture of curiosity and caution. Humans were unpredictable, and Ryan's calm strength suggested something unusual. The queen decided to watch closely, for she suspected that the human might reveal powers even she had never seen before. One morning, as the twin suns rose over Virelia, Rian joined Luma on the palace balcony. The city below was alive with movement, Virelians preparing for the day ahead. Ryan placed his hand gently on the railing, looking out over the city. "Luma," he said softly, "I do not wish to impress anyone with power. I wish only to act rightly, to protect and understand." Luma felt a deep admiration. She had seen many strong beings in her life, but Ryan's strength was different. It was not flashy or aggressive. It was steady, reliable, and full of purpose. In that moment, Luma realized that the human she was married to might be unlike any being she had ever encountered. Perhaps this union would not only strengthen ties between humans and Virelians, but also reveal the true potential of a species long underestimated. The court, the palace, and even Queen Jara were unaware of the hidden power within Rian, waiting for the moment when it would emerge. For now he remained calm and observant, learning the ways of Virelia, and forming a bond with Luma that would become the foundation of something extraordinary. As the day progressed, small hints of Ryan's unusual ability appeared. He moved with careful precision, solved minor problems with ease, and inspired respect without demanding it. Luma noticed each moment and felt her curiosity grow. She began to trust him not only with her life but with her heart. By nightfall, the palace gardens glowed under the twin moons. Luma and Rian walked together, their hands brushing occasionally. There was no need for words. Both understood that this was the beginning of a remarkable journey. Luma looked at Rian and whispered, "I do not know what the future holds, but I feel something powerful is coming." Ryan nodded, his gaze steady. "We will face it together, Luma. Whatever comes, we will face it with courage and care." And so, under the twin moons of Virelia, the unlikely union of a Virelian diplomat and a human began. The palace was quiet, the stars bright, and the air filled with the promise of change. A human had come to Virelia, unassuming yet extraordinary, and even the most powerful beings on the planet would soon discover that appearances could be deceiving. Luma did not yet know the full extent of Ryan's power, but she felt it in every calm word, every precise action, and every quiet moment of courage. This was no ordinary human. This was someone who could change the course of Virelia's history, and perhaps even the universe itself. The first part of their journey had begun. The sun rose over Virelia, painting the crystal towers with golden light. Birds with feathers that shimmered like jewels sang in the palace gardens. Luma walked alongside Ryan, who moved with the same calm confidence she had noticed since their first meeting. Today she wanted to show him the training grounds where young Virelians practiced their combat and defense skills. "Watch carefully," Luma said, her voice soft but firm. "These exercises teach precision, speed, and awareness. Most humans would struggle to keep up." Ryan nodded. "I will do my best. I want to learn, not to compete." They arrived at the training arena where Virelians moved gracefully through complicated routines with weapons that glowed faintly in their hands. Luma had trained here for years, yet even she sometimes struggled with the speed of the motions. Ryan observed quietly, his eyes scanning each movement with careful attention. When it was his turn, he picked up a training staff. The crowd of young Varelians laughed quietly. A human attempting these exercises seemed almost comical to them. Luma felt a pang of doubt herself, but she stood silently, curious about what he could do. Ryan began slowly, studying the movements before copying them. At first, his motions were awkward, but he adjusted quickly, using his own understanding of balance and timing. Within minutes, he was moving with fluidity and precision that surprised the onlookers. His strikes were measured, his blocks perfectly timed. Even Luma felt a rush of pride and astonishment. One of the young Varelians tried to challenge him, spinning quickly to strike. Ryan stepped aside calmly, redirecting the energy of the attack without effort. He smiled gently. The force does not come from resisting. It comes from guiding it. A hush fell over the training ground. Even the instructors stopped to watch him. Ryan, a human, had moved with a skill that few Varelians could match. Luma could see the respect forming in their eyes. Later, when they walked back to the palace gardens, Luma asked quietly, "Where did you learn such skill?" "You said you are not a warrior." Ryan looked toward the horizon. "I have trained in many ways, Luma, not always with weapons. I have learned to observe, to understand patterns, to use my body and mind together. Strength is not just muscle. It is awareness, timing, and care." Luma considered his words. She had met many strong Varelians, but few could combine intelligence and action so perfectly. Even the queen, who ruled with unmatched power, would find his calm focus unusual. Days passed, and Ryan continued to adapt to Varelian life. He learned their language quickly, understood their customs, and began advising Luma on matters she had only discussed with senior council members. He suggested small improvements in palace routines, ways to organize resources, and even subtle diplomatic strategies. Luma noticed that his ideas always considered both logic and morality. One evening, the queen summoned Luma to her private chambers. Jara's tall figure stood by the window, eyes fixed on the glowing city below. "Luma," the queen began, her tone measured, "I have observed the human closely. His actions are unusual, even for your guidance. He does not seek power, yet he influences others. He is calm yet decisive. I have questions, but I cannot ignore his potential." Luma bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, he is patient, intelligent, and careful. He learns quickly and he adapts. I believe his strength lies not only in action but in understanding. He does not show it openly, but he carries a presence that others follow naturally." Jara's eyes narrowed slightly. "I will continue to watch. Humans are unpredictable. I must know the limits of this one before I can fully trust him." Meanwhile, Ryan had begun exploring the palace more on his own. He spent time in the library, studying the history of Viralia and other star systems. He was fascinated by the records of past conflicts, treaties, and inventions. His mind worked quickly, connecting patterns and ideas that others had overlooked. One night, Luma found him in the library, surrounded by holographic charts of energy flows and defense structures. "You spend so much time here," she said softly, "yet the palace is vast. Do you not tire of learning?" Ryan looked up and smiled gently. "Not when the knowledge can be used to help others. Understanding the world is part of being prepared. Preparedness is not fear. It is respect for what may come." Luma felt admiration growing. He had a quiet wisdom that balanced the impulsive energy of many Varelians. She realized that his calm strength was not just physical. It was a combination of patience, observation, and insight that made him rare. One afternoon, as they walked along the cliffs overlooking the twin moons, Ryan paused. "Luma, have you noticed that your people often rely on power alone?" "I have," she admitted. "Strength is respected here. Intelligence is admired, but power often decides outcomes." Ryan nodded. "I do not oppose power, but it is incomplete without understanding. A force without control can become destruction. A mind without action can be wasted potential. Balance is the key." Luma looked at him, realizing that his philosophy reflected in his every action. Even in simple tasks, Ryan applied his ideas, showing care, precision, and foresight. She had never seen such harmony in a being. The bond between them deepened. Luma began to trust Ryan not only with palace duties but with her thoughts and feelings. She shared her concerns about the queen, the court, and the potential dangers to Varelia. Ryan listened carefully, offering advice that was insightful and cautious. One evening, as the palace hummed quietly with the settling of the day, a minor incident occurred. A small transport vehicle carrying precious energy crystals malfunctioned near the palace gates. Sparks flew and the vehicle threatened to explode. While most courtiers panicked, Ryan acted swiftly. He guided the workers to safety, using a combination of timing, precision, and calm authority. Within moments, the threat was neutralized. The queen observed the scene from a balcony. She had expected humans to be fragile, yet here was one acting with composure and effectiveness beyond her expectation. She whispered to herself, "This human may hold secrets I do not yet understand." Ryan's calm nature and intelligence began to influence others subtly. Palace guards listened to his instructions without hesitation. Young Varelians sought his guidance in training exercises. Courtiers, once skeptical, began to consult him on minor disputes. All of this occurred without him asserting dominance. His presence alone inspired confidence. Luma watched him carefully, understanding that there was more to Ryan than met the eye. She sensed that he had a hidden potential that even he had not fully revealed. She wondered what he could do if truly challenged. One night, as they stood on the cliff under the twin moons, Luma asked, "Ryan, do you feel limited by being human here?" Ryan looked at her, eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I am human, yes, but limitation is often in the mind, not the body. I do not wish to show power needlessly, but I do wish to act when necessary. Perhaps there will be a time when my true abilities are needed." Luma felt a chill of excitement and worry. She realized that the calm human she had married might hold strength far beyond anything the court had ever seen. The idea was thrilling and intimidating. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan continued his quiet studies and training. The palace grew accustomed to his presence. Luma introduced him to more of Varelia's customs, and he adapted with humility and intelligence. He impressed elders with his memory, solved complex problems quickly, and always considered the well-being of others. The queen continued to observe silently. Jara's mind was sharp and cautious. She recognized that Ryan's potential could either be a threat or a boon to Varelia. She had never seen a human act with such balance, combining calmness, intelligence, and action. She decided it was time to test him further, though not yet openly. One afternoon, Luma and Ryan walked through the palace gardens, discussing the coming festival of twin moons. Luma noticed how Ryan observed every detail: the positions of the guards, the movement of the plants, and the patterns of energy in the air. He was aware of things that others overlooked. "You notice everything," she said softly. Ryan smiled. "Observation is the first step in understanding. When you understand, you can act wisely. When you act wisely, you protect. Protection is not only defense. It is care for those around you." Luma felt a warmth in her chest. She realized that she had not only married a human, but had also found a companion whose mind, heart, and spirit were extraordinary. She wondered what the future held, knowing that Ryan's calm nature was only a glimpse of what he could become. As night fell, the palace shimmered under the twin moons. Luma and Ryan stood together quietly, knowing that something greater was stirring beneath the surface. The calm human beside her held secrets, patience, and potential that could change Varelia in ways she could not yet imagine. The second part of their journey had begun. Luma understood that Ryan was no ordinary human. He was a being of rare insight and quiet strength, and the palace, and perhaps the universe, would soon discover just how remarkable he truly was. Varelia had enjoyed weeks of calm since Ryan had arrived. The palace was filled with light and energy, the streets bustling with Varelians preparing for the upcoming festival of twin moons. Yet beneath the surface, danger loomed. From beyond the nearby star system, a fleet of alien invaders approached Varelia. Their ships were dark, angular, and bristling with strange weapons. These invaders were known as the Kraith, a fierce species that valued conquest and power above all else. The Queen's scouts detected their approach first, sending urgent messages to the palace. Luma received the news early in the morning. Her eyes widened as she read the reports. "Ryan," she called, "there is danger. The Kraith fleet is near. They will reach us within hours." Ryan's expression remained calm. "Then we must prepare, Luma. Panic will help no one. Tell me what defenses we have, and we will strengthen them." The palace erupted with activity. Soldiers gathered, energy shields were activated, and messengers ran between the towers. Luma noticed the fear in many faces. Varelians were proud, but even they could feel uneasy when faced with the advanced technology of the Kraith. Rian walked through the halls with steady purpose. He examined the palace defenses, pointing out areas that could be reinforced and suggesting new strategies for protecting both the palace and the city. His ideas were simple yet brilliant, combining logic, timing, and precision. Humans are said to be weak, Luma whispered to herself as she watched him, yet he moves with the certainty of someone who understands more than anyone else here. The queen observed from her throne, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Ryan," she said, her voice carrying across the hall, "you may know little of our world, but you have insight that surprises even me. Lead wisely, or the consequences will be yours as well." Rian bowed respectfully. "I will act with care, Your Majesty. I do not seek to show power unnecessarily. I only wish to protect those who cannot defend themselves." As the Kraith fleet drew closer, scouts reported small skirmishes on the outer perimeter. Ryan accompanied Luma to the command hall, where holographic maps displayed the movement of enemy ships. He studied them carefully, noting patterns in their attack formations. "They are not moving randomly," Rian said. "Their strategy is predictable. If we position our defenses carefully, we can block their advance and minimize damage." The queen leaned forward. "Predictable? Bold words for a human." Rian met her gaze calmly. "I do not underestimate them, Your Majesty. I only use observation to make decisions that are precise, not reckless." As the first Kraith ships entered Varelian space, alarms blared. Energy shields flashed as the invaders fired. The palace shook slightly, and distant explosions echoed through the city. Soldiers rushed to positions, but confusion and fear were evident. Rian moved quickly among the defenders. He organized patrols, reinforced weak points, and gave clear instructions with a voice that carried calm authority. Luma followed him closely, amazed at his composure. Even the most experienced Varelian commanders deferred to his judgment. A group of young Varelian trainees hesitated near a damaged gate. Ryan approached them and knelt down. "Do not fear," he said. "Step carefully. Work together. You are stronger than you think when you act with focus." The trainees followed his instructions, and the gate was repaired faster than anyone expected. Luma watched, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. Ryan had an ability to inspire confidence without force. Meanwhile, the Kraith launched a heavier attack, breaching one of the outer energy shields. Explosions lit the sky as palace defenses responded. Soldiers struggled to maintain order. Luma could see panic creeping into the ranks. Rian stepped forward, placing his hands on the control panel of the central shield. His eyes glowed faintly with concentration. "Focus the energy here," he said. "Divert power to these points. Balance the load or the shield will fail." The soldiers followed his instructions, adjusting the shields as he guided them. Slowly, the energy stabilized, protecting the palace from further damage. The queen, watching silently, felt a stir of surprise. This human was not only brave but also skilled in ways she had never seen before. As the battle continued, the Kraith sent squads of ground troops toward the palace gates. Ryan moved among the Varelian defenders, demonstrating strategies that allowed them to counter the attackers efficiently. He used timing, positioning, and anticipation to turn the tide of small skirmishes. Luma observed him, her heart pounding. She realized that Ryan's calm demeanor was a shield in itself. His presence steadied the soldiers, gave them confidence, and made them act with precision rather than panic. Even the queen began to notice the effect. She whispered to herself, "This human is more than clever. He carries a strength that I cannot yet measure." As night fell, the battle intensified. The Kraith unleashed powerful energy blasts, striking at the walls of the palace. Soldiers struggled to respond, but Ryan continued to guide them, always calm, always precise. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the central courtyard. Luma feared the worst, but Ryan was already moving toward the danger. He did not run with reckless courage. He moved with purpose, analyzing the situation and acting decisively. He redirected the flow of energy from damaged conduits, protecting the palace defenders from harm. Sparks flew around him, but he remained unharmed, his focus absolute. Luma felt her chest tighten with awe and concern. She realized that Ryan had a hidden power she had never seen before. The Kraith leader, a towering figure with armored skin and glowing red eyes, approached the palace gates. The soldiers hesitated, but Rian stepped forward, placing himself between the invaders and the palace. "Stay back," he said calmly. his voice carrying authority. "I will not allow harm to come to those who cannot defend themselves." The Kraith leader laughed, a harsh, grinding sound. "A human? You dare stand against me?" Rian's eyes glowed brighter, and a faint golden light surrounded him. Energy seemed to pulse around his body, not as an attack but as a shield and a warning. The Kraith leader stopped, surprised by the aura. Luma gasped, feeling the air shift with power she had never experienced. The soldiers, inspired by Ryan's presence, regained courage. They coordinated their attacks with precision, following his guidance. The Kraith troops were caught off guard by the organized resistance. Rian did not strike first. He observed, calculated, and directed. His calm energy allowed the defenders to act as one, turning panic into focus. Slowly, the Kraith began to retreat, unable to break through the palace defenses. The battle lasted long into the night. By dawn, the Kraith were forced to retreat from Virelian space. The palace had survived with minimal damage, and the soldiers were exhausted but victorious. Luma looked at Rian, her eyes wide with admiration. You saved us," she whispered. Rian shook his head. "We saved ourselves. I only guided the way. Strength is not in one person alone, Luma. It is in the courage and focus of everyone who acts wisely." The queen entered the courtyard, her eyes fixed on Rian. She said nothing at first, simply observing the human who had changed the outcome of the battle. Finally, she spoke. "I have underestimated you, Ryan. You are more than I expected. Perhaps humans are not as limited as history records suggest." Ryan bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I do not seek to exceed expectation. I only act to protect and understand." Luma felt a deep sense of pride and relief. The human she had married was no longer just calm and intelligent. He had shown a hidden strength that none could ignore. The palace, the court, and even the queen herself now recognized that Rian was extraordinary. As the twin moons rose over the palace, the city celebrated quietly. Virelians repaired minor damages, tended to the wounded, and whispered about the human who had stood firm against the Kraith. Luma and Rian walked together along the cliffs, watching the moons reflect on the crystal towers. "Rian," Luma said softly, "your strength, it is more than physical. You inspire hope, courage, and focus. Even the queen has noticed." Ryan smiled gently. "I am still human, Luma. I only act with care. The true strength lies in understanding and courage, not in power alone." Luma nodded. She understood that Rian's calm intelligence and hidden power had changed Virelia forever. The human she had married was no longer underestimated. He was a symbol of hope, courage, and the extraordinary potential of a species long considered weak. As they stood together, the palace lights twinkling below, Luma realized that the coming days would bring more challenges. Yet with Rian by her side, she felt certain that they could face anything. The battle against the Kraith had revealed his true nature, and soon, even greater tests would arrive. The third part of their journey had ended, but the story of courage, intelligence, and hidden power was only beginning. Virelia had seen a glimpse of what humans could truly achieve, and the universe would not be the same again. The morning after the battle with the Kraith dawned clear and bright, yet a heavy tension lingered over Virelia. The palace had survived, but the court knew that the Kraith might return in greater numbers. The streets buzzed with preparation as the Virelians reinforced their defenses and trained tirelessly for any possible attack. Rian walked through the palace quietly, observing the efforts. Soldiers were moving energy shields, repairing damaged walls, and coordinating patrols. Luma followed him, noting how naturally he seemed to inspire others. Even when he did not speak, people worked with precision and confidence, trusting his presence. "This is impressive," Luma said softly. "Your guidance yesterday changed everything. The soldiers believe in you." Ryan smiled gently. "I do not create belief, Luma. I only show a way to act calmly and wisely. Strength is in the choice to act with focus, not in the absence of fear." As the day progressed, reports arrived of strange disturbances beyond the city walls. The Kraith had not retreated completely. Small fleets were hovering near the mountains, sending scouts to test the defenses. Luma felt a chill. Even though Rian had helped them survive once, she knew the true battle might come soon. At midday, the palace council gathered in the main hall. Queen Jara presided, her glowing eyes sharp and watchful. "We have faced the Kraith before," she began, "but this human beside us has shown a skill we cannot ignore. Ryan, you have guided us, yet the threat remains. Are you prepared to do more?" Ryan stood calmly. I will act when needed, Your Majesty. My goal is to protect, not to dominate. If the Kraith return, I will ensure our people are safe. The Queen studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. I have seen your courage and your wisdom, but humans are limited in power. Can you truly match our strength if the Kraith attack again? Ryan's eyes held steady. Power is not only in strength, Your Majesty. It is in understanding, in careful action, and in the courage to face danger. I will act if the need arises. By late afternoon, the first signs of the Kraith's return appeared. Energy beams lit the sky, striking the palace walls. The city trembled as the invaders advanced, stronger and more numerous than before. Panic rippled through the guards, but Ryan moved among them with calm precision. Stay focused, he instructed. Observe their patterns. Act together. Fear will only cause mistakes. The soldiers obeyed. Under his guidance, they reinforced shields, positioned energy barriers, and coordinated their attacks. Even young trainees worked with unexpected skill, inspired by Ryan's example. Luma watched, amazed at the transformation he had caused in such a short time. Suddenly, a squad of Kraith soldiers breached the outer gates. They were larger and more armored than before, with weapons that pulsed with energy. The defenders hesitated for a moment, but Ryan stepped forward. His hands glowed faintly, and a golden aura began to surround him. Luma's heart raced. She had sensed hints of power in him before. But this was something entirely different. The air around Ryan seemed to pulse with energy, and even the Queen's eyes widened slightly. Ryan, Luma whispered. What is happening? I will protect everyone, he said calmly. Focus on your duties, Luma. Trust me. The Kraith soldiers charged, but Ryan moved faster than anyone could follow. His hands extended and bursts of energy struck the invaders, not with recklessness, but with precision. The golden aura acted as both shield and force, deflecting attacks and protecting the defenders. The Varelians watched in awe. Even the strongest warriors could not move as swiftly or effectively as Ryan. His movements were a combination of speed, strategy, and power. He did not strike blindly. Every action had purpose. The Kraith leader, the massive armored figure, stepped forward, roaring with frustration. He unleashed a wave of energy that shattered part of the outer wall. Ryan moved through the blast, directing energy from his aura to stabilize the damaged structure. He then countered with a controlled burst that sent the Kraith soldiers flying back. Luma's eyes widened. She had never seen power like this. Even among the most elite Varelian warriors, she realized that Ryan had been holding back until the right moment. His calm demeanor had concealed an extraordinary strength. Queen Jera descended to the battlefield, her presence commanding attention. Ryan, she said, her voice firm, your power is beyond anything I expected. Show me its limits, human. Prove your strength. Ryan did not speak. He did not need to. His aura intensified, surrounding him with radiant energy. He moved like a storm, striking the Kraith with precision and speed. The invaders tried to adapt, but his calculated movements were impossible to predict. Even the Kraith leader struggled to withstand the assault. The palace defenders, inspired by Ryan's example, fought with renewed courage. They followed his guidance, acting as a single coordinated force. The Kraith, once confident, began to retreat under the combined pressure of strategy, skill, and Ryan's extraordinary power. Luma ran alongside him, assisting where she could. She saw how Ryan's energy did not harm their own people. It protected and guided them. His power was not destructive for its own sake. It was controlled, purposeful, and protective. The Kraith leader made a final desperate attack, sending a wave of energy directly toward the central hall. Ryan stepped forward, raising his hands. A golden shield expanded from him, absorbing the impact and dispersing the energy safely. The Kraith soldiers, seeing their leader falter, began to retreat in disarray. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. The invaders fled into the darkness of space, defeated and confused by the human who had defended the palace with unmatched power. The palace defenders cheered, but their eyes constantly returned to Ryan, who now stood calmly, the golden aura fading as he caught his breath. Queen Jera approached him slowly, her expression a mix of astonishment and respect. I have ruled for centuries, she said softly, and I have never seen a being who combines strength, intelligence, and control as you do. You have changed everything I thought I knew about humans. Ryan bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I do not seek recognition. I act only to protect. The strength you see is not mine alone. It is the result of focus, understanding, and care for others. Luma ran to his side, placing a hand on his arm. "You were incredible, Ryan. You saved everyone." "Even the Queen is amazed." Ryan smiled gently. "I only did what was necessary. Courage and wisdom are available to anyone who chooses to use them." The Queen studied them both, realizing that her initial doubts about humans had been unfounded. She saw in Ryan not only extraordinary power but also the wisdom to wield it responsibly. Her respect for him grew, and she began to consider humans as more than fragile creatures. They were beings capable of remarkable potential. As the twin moons rose over the palace, the city of Virelia celebrated quietly. Soldiers repaired the walls, tended to the wounded, and whispered about the human who had single-handedly turned the tide of battle. Luma walked beside Ryan, her heart filled with admiration and love. "You did more than anyone could have imagined," she said softly. "Even I did not know you were capable of this." Ryan shook his head. "Luma, I have always been capable. I only chose the right moment. Power without purpose is meaningless. I act with care and focus. That is the true strength." Luma smiled, realizing that she had married a human unlike any other. Ryan was not only strong but wise, thoughtful, and protective. His calm demeanor had hidden an extraordinary power, one that could change the course of history for Virelia, and perhaps the universe. Even the Queen, standing nearby, felt a spark of hope and caution. She had underestimated humans, but now she saw their potential. Ryan had shown that courage, intelligence, and control could surpass even the mightiest of alien powers. As the night deepened, Luma and Ryan stood on the cliffs overlooking the glowing city. The palace towers reflected the twin moons, and the air was filled with a sense of possibility. "Rian," Luma said, "the world will never see humans the same way again." He smiled softly. "Perhaps not. But it is not the recognition that matters. It is the responsibility to act rightly, to protect and to understand. That is what matters most." The city below settled into quiet peace. Virelia had survived the greatest threat it had faced in years, and the people had witnessed something extraordinary. A human, calm and thoughtful, had unleashed a power that none could ignore, inspiring courage and respect. The fourth part of their journey had revealed Rian's hidden potential, leaving the court, the soldiers, and even Queen Jara stunned. The human who had once seemed ordinary was now a symbol of hope, strength, and wisdom. The real test, however, was still to come. For the Kraith would return, and the universe would soon witness that humans were capable of more than anyone had ever imagined. The morning after the battle, Virelia was alive with quiet celebration. The city was safe, the Kraith fleet defeated, and the palace stood strong. The twin moons reflected softly on the crystal towers, giving the entire city a peaceful glow. Citizens walked through the streets, repairing minor damage and sharing stories of the human who had changed everything. Luma stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the city. She felt pride and awe in equal measure. Ryan had done more than anyone could imagine. He had protected the palace, guided the soldiers, and defeated the invaders without unnecessary force. His actions had inspired everyone, and his calm strength had left an impression on the Queen herself. Ryan approached her quietly. "The city is peaceful," he said softly. "But peace is not permanent. We must always be ready to protect it." Luma smiled. "You did more than protect, Ryan. You gave hope. Everyone believes in the future because of you." He shook his head gently. "I did not act for recognition. I acted because it was necessary. Courage and wisdom belong to those who choose to use them." The Queen called for a gathering in the palace courtyard. Soldiers, council members, and citizens assembled to hear her words. Luma stood beside Rian, feeling a mixture of pride and curiosity. She wondered what the Queen would say about the human who had saved them all. Jara stepped forward, her tall figure commanding attention. "People of Virelia," she began, "we have faced a threat greater than any we have seen in years. We have survived because of courage, skill, and unity. Yet there is one among us whose actions have changed the way we see the universe. A human named Rian has demonstrated strength, wisdom, and leadership beyond expectation. He has shown us that humans are not weak. They are capable of extraordinary deeds." A murmur ran through the crowd. Many Virelians had underestimated humans, but now they looked at Ryan with admiration and respect. Luma felt her heart swell. She had known of his abilities in a quiet way, but seeing the recognition from the Queen and the court filled her with awe. Rian bowed humbly. "Your Majesty, I do not seek praise. I only wish to act rightly and protect those who cannot defend themselves. The true strength is in every person who chooses courage and wisdom." The Queen nodded. "Then let this day mark a new beginning. Humans will be recognized as allies, equals, and protectors. Their potential is now clear to all of Virelia. Let their example inspire us to act with courage, care, and intelligence in every choice we make." The city erupted in cheers. Soldiers, citizens, and even the youngest trainees celebrated. For the first time, humans were seen as more than fragile creatures. Ryan's actions had proven that courage, intelligence, and heart could surpass appearances. And even the most powerful Virelians could not ignore his example. Later that day, Luma and Rayan walked through the palace gardens. The flowers glowed softly in the afternoon light, and birds with radiant feathers sang above them. "You have changed everything, Rayan," Luma said. "Not just the palace, not just the city, but the way everyone thinks. Even the Queen sees humans differently now." Ryan smiled softly. "I only acted as I could, Luma. People see what they choose to see, and I only hope my actions encourage them to choose courage and understanding." Luma looked at him, her eyes filled with admiration. "You are extraordinary, Ryan. Not because of power alone, but because of how you use it. You care, you think, and you inspire. I have never met anyone like you." He reached for her hand gently. "And I have never met anyone like you, Luma. You trust, guide, and support me in ways I could never have imagined. Together we are stronger than we are alone." The palace, still buzzing from the celebrations, felt lighter. The threat of the Kraith was gone, and a sense of hope and unity spread through the city. Soldiers trained more effectively, citizens worked together, and even young Virelians dreamed of greatness inspired by Rian's example. Queen Jara invited Rian and Luma to her private chambers later that evening. The room was quiet, lit by the soft glow of crystals embedded in the walls. The Queen studied them both carefully, her expression thoughtful. "You have done what I never expected," she said slowly. "Humans were said to be weak, yet you have proven otherwise. You have not only protected Virelia, but have taught us new ways to act with courage and wisdom. I must admit I am impressed." Ryan bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I only acted to protect and guide. Humans have potential, just as every being does. Strength is in the choices we make and how we care for others." The Queen nodded. "Then it is time to recognize this publicly. Humans will be given positions of honor, access to resources, and opportunities to contribute to Virelia's growth. You, Ryan, will continue to advise and guide, not just for today but for the future." Luma felt a surge of pride and relief. She had known of Ryan's abilities, but now the recognition from the Queen and the court ensured that his example would change the way Virelia saw humans forever. As the night approached, the palace settled into quiet reflection. Luma and Rian walked along the cliffside overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons reflected off the crystal towers, and the wind carried a sense of peace and possibility. "Ryan," Luma said softly, "what comes next? Will the Kraith return?" Ryan looked at the horizon, his expression calm. "Perhaps. But now Virelia is stronger. The people are united, the soldiers inspired, and the palace prepared. If they return, we will face them together with courage, intelligence, and care." Luma smiled, taking his hand. "And we will face it together." "I trust you, Rian, more than anyone else," he smiled back. "And I trust you, Luma. You guide, support, and believe. That is the true strength in partnership. Together we are capable of more than we realize." The palace lights twinkled below as they walked. Citizens repaired the city, celebrated quietly, and shared stories of the human who had saved them. The twin moons shone brightly above, casting a gentle glow over the palace gardens. In the following days, life in Virelia adjusted to a new reality. Humans were no longer outsiders. They trained alongside Virelians, contributed to planning defenses, and offered insight into strategy, problem-solving, and innovation. Ryan continued to guide with humility and wisdom, showing that true strength combined courage, intelligence, and care. Luma worked closely with him, learning from his perspective and sharing her own experience. Together they helped the palace and the city grow stronger, preparing for a future where challenges would come, but the people of Virelia would face them united and confident. The Queen watched all of this with a mixture of respect and curiosity. She realized that humans were capable of far more than she had imagined. Ryan's example showed that courage, intelligence, and heart could change the way entire civilizations viewed each other. One evening, As the twin moons rose high in the sky, Luma and Ryan stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the glowing city. "Ryan," Luma said softly, "you have not just saved Virelia, you have changed it. You have inspired hope, courage, and belief in what is possible. You are extraordinary." Ryan looked at her with calm eyes. "I only did what was right, Luma. True strength is in the choices we make, the care we show, and the courage to act wisely. That is what matters." Luma nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. She realized that she had married a human unlike any other. Ryan was not only strong but wise, thoughtful, and protective. His calm nature had hidden an extraordinary power, and now the palace, the court, and the city recognized his potential. The night was quiet, the twin moons reflecting on the crystal towers, casting soft light over Virelia. Citizens rested peacefully, soldiers trained for future challenges, and the palace hummed with a sense of hope. Luma squeezed Ryan's hand gently. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," Ryan smiled. "Together, we are stronger than any challenge. Virelia has shown that courage, intelligence, and care can change the universe, and humans are part of that future." The city below sparkled with light, the palace towers reflecting the moons above. Virelia had survived the greatest threat it had faced in years, and the people had witnessed extraordinary courage, wisdom, and strength. A human had proven that even the most underestimated species could achieve greatness, inspire hope, and change the course of history. As Luma and Ryan looked toward the horizon, the future seemed full of possibility. The Kraith might return, challenges would arise, but the palace, the city, and the people were ready. And now humanity had earned its place among the stars. The story of courage, intelligence, and hidden power had reached a new beginning. Luma and Ryan stood together, symbols of trust, partnership, and extraordinary potential. The universe had seen what humans could do, and Virelia would never be the same again. Under the twin moons, a new era had begun,